So first, what is that PDF editor? It's Drawboard PDF, something on the Microsoft Store. You do round to 3 decimal places or truncate to 4. Yeah, don't round it. Yeah, truncate means like, so if I have 2.001, I would truncate at the 4th decimal place. I wouldn't round. So if it was like 2.9, I would round, but because I'm truncating, it stops there. There's just 2 ways of doing it. That's it. They accept both. So I'm gonna start. So first, the most important thing is average rate of change. Average rate of change is f of b minus f of a divided by b minus a. Or it's your y2. You need to know this formula. This is the most important formula. y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. But this is for any function instead of just linear equations. Next, linear and quadratic patterns. Function can be linear because the rates of change over consecutive equal length intervals is constant. And quadratic is when there's 2. So you have to do the first difference and then you have to do the second difference, or the second order difference. And the rate of change over consecutive equal length intervals is constant. Any questions on these 2 things? Nope. Alright, no questions on these? Okay, then I'm going to move on to these important definitions. First, we have increasing. As input values increase, output values increase. That's pretty simple. Decreasing is just the opposite. As input values increase, our output values decrease. Next, concave up. As input values increase, the slope gets steeper. The graph will make an upward cupping shape like the letter U. F of x increasing at an increasing rate. Concave down. As input values increase, the slope gets less steep and the graph will make a downward cup shape and like the letter N. F of x is decreasing at a decreasing rate. And finally, points of inflection. The point where the graph changes concavity from up to down or down to up. Any questions on these definitions? No? What's inflection? Inflection is just the point of where it changes. So like, if you have like a cubic, then add like, there would be a point like here, which changes the concave up to concave down. Do you need to be able to calculate points of inflection? You cannot calculate points of inflection without calculus. What does increasing at decreasing rate? So increasing at decreasing rate means it's the function is increasing, but it's concave down. So if you have this, it's increasing for this portion on the left. It's increasing, but it's a decreasing rate. Does that make sense to whoever asked that question? Yeah. Okay. We can go over as many. I'll try to get the unit review fast, and then we'll do unit 1 practice, and like we'll go like 1. We'll get when we get to unit 1 and 2. I think rate of change is positive, negative, increasing, decreasing, maximum. And there's a rate of change graph. Rate of change graphs at the max or mins. That's your inflection points. Okay. We'll move on to you have factoring. You have your zeros, multiplicity. If it's x squared, it means it bounces, or x to the 4th, or any even degree. Complex roots are plus or minus I, and they always come in pairs of 2. And the only way to find these are to be factored. End behavior. This is limit notation. You have to use positive and negative infinity. If it's an odd polynomial and it's positive, it's going to be going like this. Rerun the course for you. Then from there you have even, which means both go up, and if it's negative, it's the other way. And you always have to write limit of x approaches something, and you always have to write the function name. So f of x, g of x. If you write the wrong function, they won't give you the point. Who made this? Alexander Lego posted this in the AP Precalc channel as a thing that his teacher made for. So, and always remember to write f of x and g of x. If you write the wrong function name, they won't give you the point for the limit notation on when. I think it's question 1, part FRQ1, part B. Next, 1.7 to 1.14. You have the binomial theorem, which is just Pascal's triangle as well, which is just 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 3, 3, 1, and so on. Next, proportional means y equals kx, and inverse means y equals k over x. Transformations of functions. Someone asked this before. Where do you find that diagram again? It's in the AP Precalc pins. So f of x plus h is a vertical translation by up h, or a vertical shift up h. F of x minus h is a vertical translation right h, or a vertical shift to the right. F of b of x is a horizontal dilation by 1 over b, because horizontal translations are inversed. A of f of x are vertical dilation by a factor of a. Negative f of x is a reflection over the x-axis, and f of negative x is a reflection over the y-axis. Any questions on transformations? Because someone asked to go over transformations before. Wait, there is this paper. What is proportionals? Proportional would be like multiplication. It's usually just like an exponent or multiplication of some sort. Graphing rational functions. It's just we can review whatever we want after like some MCQ. We'll go until 9:45 Eastern, so like in 2 hours. So from here we have graphing rational functions. There's a hole where there's x value repeats in the bottom and top, and then you use the resultant function to graph the rest of your thing. Asymptotes are on the bottom and zeros are on the top. And slant asymptotes are when there's a degree difference of exactly 1. So if you have like x to the third and x squared, you have a slant asymptote. Then you have horizontal asymptotes, which are pretty important. If the degrees are equal, then you have y is equal to a over b. If the denominator is bigger than the numerator, you have y is equal to 0. And if the numerator is greater than the denominator, you have no horizontal asymptote unless it's exactly greater than 1. And this is another example. And you have to do long division or polynomial synthetic division. I'm going to skip over this calculator stuff because I went over this yesterday in the Desmos TI-84 lecture, which is found in the 5 Hive lecture sheet. Where's the PDF link? It's in AP Precalc pins, and it's like it's called AP Reference Guide, and it's pinned by Alexander Lego. Geometric and arithmetic. Geometric is g of 0, r of n, and arithmetic is a of n is equal to a of o plus d of n. Some exponent rules. A times n times a of n is equal to a n plus n. Division is subtraction. Exponents are multiplication. Anything to the power of 0 is 1. Anything to the negative exponent goes in the denominator. And rationals are square roots and powers. Can we go over the mu alpha theta precalc math? I don't know what that is. How do you find the general term? Like this thing, A0? Okay. So if you have an exponential function, it grows. If b is greater than 1, it grows. If b is between 0 and 1, it decays. It can never be less than 0. If a is negative, you flip it, and same thing on the other side. Next, some key exponential formulas. Half-life is an initial amount that shrinks by half every h. So you would start with your initial amount, and you have 1/2 t divided by your amount of days. Doubling time is an initial amount a that doubles every day. So pretty much the opposite of half-life. Next, percent increase. It starts with the initial amount and a grows by percent increase. So if it says like it increases by 1% every month, then it would be 1% here. Percent decrease would be 1 minus. So if it was 1% decrease, it would be 1 minus 1%. So 99%. Language used for exponential relations. Exponential functions model growth patterns with successive output values over equal length input intervals are proportional. Any questions on this like page before we move on to the next page? You have a question? What's your question? How do you know? When do you know if you divide or multiply? What do you mean divide or multiply? Is this all given out? There is no reference sheet for AP Precalc, so you have to memorize it. How do you do the elimination method? What's the what do you mean? Or you could try deriving it or stuff like that. When you know the multiply or divide for the half-life thing, if it gives you like 3.5, if it says like half-life is 3.5 days, right? For like some like let's say carbon 6, which that's false, but your 3.5 would be your H and your T would be how much days or time, and A would be your initial starting bacteria. From there, we'll move on to the next topic. From there, K values distort the proportionality of exponential function. So if you look at the differences, it doesn't match up with the times 2 ratio. But if you subtract it by 1 and add 1, or in this case, add 3, it fixes that problem, and now it's exponential. From there, residuals. Residuals are y minus the actual minus predicted. And a good residual is anything with no pattern, and a bad residual or not appropriate is something with a pattern because it has a curve. Inverses are f of a equals b and f of b equals a with some restrictions. The domain and range are usually flipped. So for this example, you just flip the domain. Your x domain became your y domain, and then you change it to make sure it's a function that works. Next, composite functions. Composite functions are the idea of just plugging in a function to each other. So you may have to plug in g of x into f of x. So this example, it plugs in it. Next, logs. Logs are log n of c equals a. Common log is base 10. And the AP language that they want to see on the FRQs is input values change proportionally as output values increase in equal length intervals. Some key features. It has a vertical asymptote, and the base function has it at 0. And there's a few properties that we need to know. Yeah, you can't talk about the horizontal line test. You have to talk about how there's no repeat y values or x values. From there, there's a few properties we need to know. Product, quotient, power, and change of base. Product is when you have to add two exponents with the same base, you can multiply them inside one base. Subtraction is division. And then if you have a power inside the exponent, you can bring this power to the outside. Next, log A of B, which is just log B divided by log A. So your top number goes here and your bottom number goes here. And you can choose the base. You can choose 10, you can choose 2. Whichever one helps you simplify it the most. Inverse of logs is pretty much just switching x and y. And that's that. When do you use change of base? For example, if you have log 2 of like x plus log 4 of x, right? You can't add these together. But if you use change of base, this now becomes log of x divided by log of 4, and you can put 2 as the base number, which means now log 2 of 4 is equal to 2. So now we can say log 2 of x plus log 2 of x divided by 2. And now you can add them together with 1/2 in the numerator in the coefficient. So you can say log 2 of x times x to the 1/2, which is more simplified than this. Next, the natural log is any log with the power of e to the base. Next, solving, you have to get the same base or you have to use change your base. And solving log equations, the best way, you have to check for extraneous solutions always. Log inequalities. Log inequalities, the first step is always to first find your restrictions for your original log equation. From there, then you use how you check for extraneous solutions. So the way to check for extraneous solutions is, in this example, you would get -4 and 1. So then you would plug that back into this original equation. It's posted in AP Precalc channel and it's posted above. So you have to check for extraneous solutions, like always. For MCQs, extraneous is anything that's negative. Yep. Log scale. It's just change it based on the log. Semi-log plots is important. You will see at least 1 to 2 MCQs. It's pretty much when the y-axis is scaled by a factor of 10. So 10, 100, 1,000. And the graph represents an exponential relationship because the semi-log plot shows a linear relationship. Next, unit theory. Very heavily requested topic. So first, radians. It's the ratio of the length of the arc, length of the circle, centered at the origin, subtended by the angle to the radius of the same circle. Degrees to radians. You start with your radians and you multiply by 180 degrees and leave pi in the denominator. Radians to degrees. Start with your degrees, add pi on the top, and divide by 180. You don't need another degrees, but there is a chance that there could be an MCQ that relates to that because it is a real-world solution. Standard position is when the angle vertex coincides with the origin and one ray coincides with the positive axis. The unit circle, the x-coordinates are your cosine and your y-coordinates are your sine. Next, the periodic relationship means, as the AP language, as the input values increase, the output values demonstrate a repeating pattern over successive equal length intervals. And you can find missing coordinates by drawing a triangle and just making the triangle, like putting R and then using the theta values and solving. Next, characteristics of sinusoidal graphs. This is important for FRQ theory. You may get the period, you may get a midline, you may get an amplitude, and you will definitely get the period in some form in English. Or you may get the frequency, and that's the number of times sine or cosine repeats within 2 pi. So if it says per second, it's usually a frequency. How do you find C? C is your shift, right? So it depends on where you start your function. So for cosine, right, if you start at, if your first coordinate is 0, let's say 10, you don't have a shift. But if you say this first coordinate is 10, then you have to have a shift of -10. Does that make sense? Where can you find these slides? These slides are in the pinned messages of Apricot. Yep. Yeah, memorizing the unit circle is not bad. It's just memorize this first quadrant, these pairs, and then use quadrantal knowledge, like Q1 is positive, positive, this is negative, positive, negative, negative, and positive, negative. Let me go over the tan unit circle. The tan unit circle would be just dividing this by this. So it would be square root 3 over 2 divided by 1/2, cancel, cancel, so this would be square root 3. And you just have to do that for all of it. What's the general format of the FRQs? FRQ 1 is it's like functions, inverses, and limit notation. FRQ 2 is like a non-periodic context. So FRQ 3 is periodic context, and FRQ 4 is like solving log exponential or trig equations, and all of them. Sine is y over r, cosine is x over r, and tan is y over x. You need to memorize these graphs. Sine starts at the midline. Starts at 0. Cosine starts at its point, and tan starts with an amplitude of 1 and then goes to infinity. And has asymptotes of pi over 2 plus pi k. And where k is an element of all reals. Sine transformations. Sine transformations. A is the amplitude, creates vertical dilation by factoring. B is 2 pi over b, creates a horizontal by factor 1 over b. C is horizontal translation or phase shift to the left or to the right. D is vertical translation. Scaling is creating quadrants of length period divided by 4. Reflection, A flips over x-axis, B flips over y-axis. 3.8 to 3.15, the last section. How do you find A and D? Depends on the example. So A is usually like if you have a midline of like 5 and it says 10 is your max, then your amplitude is 5. And then you can also learn that it's 0 at the and then it's 0 at the bottom, so there's another 5 here. And then your midline would be 5. So that's answers both of them. Or you may get like how do you tell the C? You tell the C based off of like if you start a cosine, like for example cosine, you start at like if your first coordinate's here, then you don't have a C. But if you start at like x is 10, then you have to shift it 10 to so the max is at the point at the x-axis, at the y-axis. So next, the Pythagorean identities. You need to know sine squared plus cosine squared equals 1. The other ones are these two are found based off just dividing. So if sine squared theta plus cosine squared theta equals 1. If you divide each of them by sine squared, now you get 1 plus cotangent squared theta equals c-secant squared theta. Which means you just found 1 based off doing that. And now you can do the same thing and you find this one by dividing by cosine. Then cotangent is just a flip, and now the asymptotes are at 0 plus pi n. Secant is where the cosine graph intersects before a vertical shift. C-secant is where sine intersects before a flip. Arctan has a domain restriction with holes here and includes quadrants 1 and 4. Cosine inverse is quadrants 1 and 2, and sine is 1 and 2, including these values. How do you logically understand the c-secant and secant graphs? So the way to do these is to first graph sine and cosine. So for this one, you would graph the cosine function, and when you graph the cosine function, it would intersect at the x-axis. And where it intersects at the x-axis is your asymptotes. And then you would just draw like this upwards u and a downwards u. What's exponential growth and decay? Exponential growth is when b is greater than 1, and exponential decay is when b is between 1 and 0. Can you show me how to get the other double angle for cosine the same way you showed for trig identity? Sure. So, sum identities. Your double angle identities can be found using the sum identities. So if we use sine A of B, right? So if we say sine of, so let's derive the sine 2 theta. Sine 2 theta is the same thing as sine 2x for this example. Sine 2x is equal to, using this formula, we would say sine of x cosine of x plus sine of x cosine of x, which can be simplified to 2 sine of x cosine of x. And that's your sine identity. So now you don't have to even memorize these if you memorize this one. So that's 2 less formulas to memorize. And these other 2 formulas that they use are found by the Pythagorean theorem. What's the question? How do you know to graph transformed arc trig functions for the MCQ? You do not need to know how to graph transformed arc trig. You just have to know how to identify it. Moving on. Proving identities. If you can't figure out which identity to use, the best idea is to simplify into sine and cosine, and then simplify at the end. Solving trig equations inequalities. The best way to solve a trig inequality is doing a sign chart, testing values in between, and seeing if it's positive or negative. Next, or also drawing the unit circle. Alright, polar coordinates. Polar coordinates are r, comma, theta, and this is your input, this is your output. And r is your radius, and theta is your measure of an angle. Alright, two important formulas. Conversion between polar and rectangular. X is equal to r cosine theta, and y is equal to r sine theta. And the conversion between rectangular and polar is r is equal to the square root of x squared plus y squared, and theta is equal to arctan y over x. And complex numbers, you just put an I in front. Alright. Finally, the last section is polar graphing. When graphing polar functions, changes in input correspond to changes in the angle measured from the positive x-axis. Changes in output correspond to changes in the distance from the origin. So if you're going to graph this, you could just do plugging and chugging, or you could try graphing the original cosine functions. So for this example, you could graph 3 pi, and then you could graph this in rectangular form like you learned in the beginning of the unit, and then you could just plot each point. So for this example, you would start at 6, 3, and 0. So add like the first pair, you would have like a value up here, and that's going to be your first value, and then you just keep testing values exactly like that until you go around the entire thing. And if you're missing values, you just plug and chug. Describing polar graphs, the rate of change topic, the last topic of AP Precalc. The distance between f and 0 and the origin is increasing, then if theta is increasing and positive, it's increasing. If it's decreasing and positive, it's decreasing. If it's increasing and negative, it's decreasing. And if it's decreasing and negative, it's increasing. Any questions about all of this material? If not, we'll go into MC. Which topic is polar graphs? Polar graphs is like 3.13 to 3.15. Yeah. Can we do FRQ2? Now make a poll real quick. Okay. Next. So vote on the poll, and then we'll decide from there what to do. Whichever one wins, we'll do based off that. We need to stop these even splits, because these even splits are very annoying to decide. Okay, yeah, we need a landslide. Okay, did everyone vote? It's a tie again. If the cool savage is in here, pick up thing. If the cool savage is in here, pick whichever one you think people need the most. Because it's tied. Alright, stop. We're going over MCQs. Okay, he decided. Unit 1, 2, or 3 MCQs. Unit 1, 2, or 3 MCQs. We will go over FRQs after for a little bit. Alright, at 9:15 we'll go over FRQs. How about that? I'll give like 45 minutes for each. Alright, I'll do 45 minutes for each MCQs and FRQs. Alright, which unit of MCQs do you want to do now? Yeah, okay. Choose a unit for MCQs. Okay, unit 3 won by a landslide. Alright, stop spamming. We don't want to get a mod in here, because that's going to be annoying. So, unit 3 MCQ. Alright, which unit do you guys want to do? Like, which topic? Between like 3.1 to 3.15. Trig identities, polar. Like, sinusoidal is the entire topics. Polar, okay. Looks like polar's winning, so we'll do polar first. And then we'll do There's no exact question on tan, so we'll go to polar first. We'll start with some of this because this is important. Let me zoom in so you guys can see better. We'll start with trig identities first. Try solving this 122. Yeah, there's a lot of people spamming, but now that we're all working on the questions together, it'll calm down. Okay, I'll give like 2 minutes. I'll give a minute for each question so we can get through as many questions as possible. I can make the polls for these MCQs because okay. Yeah, there was a ton of spam just a second ago when we're deciding to do MCQs or FRQs. So don't impose a 30-second, please. That's gonna be very annoying to get questions done during Q&A. 5 seconds fine, I guess. 5 seconds fine. I don't think they can though. I don't think Discord lets you do. Remember to do 122 and answer in the poll. Don't spoil the answer yet. I'll go over it. There's 23 votes. Okay, I'll go over it. The answer for 122 was A. Any questions? Okay, explain, sure. So we have our Pythagorean theorem. Sine squared plus cosine squared equals 1. The fundamental theorem of trig, or fundamental identity of trig. So we can do some subtraction addition. So first, we're going to subtract this to the other side and bring the 1 over here so we can get this top thing. So sine squared x minus 1 equals cosine squared x. Now we can simplify this. Cosine squared x. Now, we do this. 1 minus cosine squared. So we can do the same thing. We bring the 1 to this side, and now we bring the sine x to the other side. So sine squared x plus cosine squared x equals 1. Then we'll subtract the 1. It's 1 minus cosine squared. So for this, I would say subtract the cosine squared then. Cosine squared x. So now we have sine squared of x is equal to 1 minus cosine squared of x. From here, it will be sine squared of x, which would be equal to cotangent squared of x. And hold up a sec. Yeah, it's negative. Hold up. I missed this step. Hold up 1 sec. There's 1 minus negative cosine squared. Forgot the. Is it negative? Is this negative? Okay, the top one's negative. Okay, my bad. Oh yeah, I see now. Because when I subtracted cosine squared of x, it was supposed to be negative cosine squared of x. That's the, so I'll redo this. If we have sine squared of x plus cosine squared of x is equal to 1, we're gonna subtract cosine squared of x, and then we have sine squared of x equals 1 minus cosine squared of x, and now we're gonna subtract the 1 to get sine squared of x minus 1 equals negative cosine squared of x. And now we can replace this with this. Does that make sense for everyone that didn't understand 122? And see, you can easily make algebra. It's hard capped at 9:30 EST. It's hard capped at 9:30 p.m. EST. Not 9. So yeah, it's negative cosine because cosine over sine is cotangent, and there's 2. Yeah, no, it's cosine, squared x, not, let's see, do this one. This one looks like a good one. Yeah, those are the crucial ones. And the double angle and sum and difference. Yeah. Okay. Try 124. Now, I'll give like a minute for this, and I'll create a poll real quick. And by the way, try not to look at the formulas. Try to find them. Try to remember them yourself. You're not cooked. It's you know more than you know. Okay, let's see. We have 20 votes. I'll wait like another minute to see. Is the exam like this? That would be a question for the cool savage because I haven't taken the exam yet. So, yeah. Sugar identities are just algebra. So think of it just like algebra. You've done algebra 1, you've done algebra 2. Just repeat it. It's just different variables, different numbers. Yeah, and Desmos is very useful. If anyone wants to see like how to use Desmos, I posted the lecture in the 5 High spreadsheet. I can post a link to that. Quick. Post a link to that. So yeah, there's a Unit 1 lecture, there's a Unit 2 lecture, there's a trig part 1, there's a trig part 2, there's a calculator and a Q&A, and then there's today's, which isn't on there yet. So that's good. Going over the FRQs is important because if you know how to do the FRQs, you have the idea, like the math behind it. There's 0 MCQ practice. MCQs is a good amount of common sense and then just doing the math itself. That's what there's 28 non-calc questions. Let me see what everyone put for 124. 124 was C. Any questions on this? Most people got it right, so. Can you go over it? Sure. So, first, C secant is the same thing as 1 over sine of x. Because C secant is the inverse. No, is the reciprocal function. So, we have 1 over sine of x. Next, sine of 2x. I have the formula memorized, but we're going to use the sum and difference version. So, we have sine of 2x is going to be equal to sine of x plus x, which is one way to think about this. And now you should have your sum and difference formula memorized by now. So we're going to say sine of x cosine of x plus sine of x cosine of x. And now you can see there's 2 of them. So now we're going to say there's 2 sine of x cosine x. And now we're going to put that over here. 2 sine of x cosine of x. And now these cancel out, which leaves, without canceling the 2. So these 2 cancel out, leaving 2 cosine x. So yeah, you should know your sum and difference. These are important. Knowing your sum and difference formulas are important. These sum and difference formulas make your double angle and double angle formula. How does cosine spawn? That's the double angle formula. That's the sum and difference formula. And if you just had sine 2x memorized, it would just be equal to 2 sine x cosine x. If you forget the double angle, just use. Not every question is gonna be on Desmos. There's 28 non-calc questions. No, just memorize the sum and difference. If you're gonna memorize anything today, memorize sine of a plus b, a plus and minus b, and cosine a plus and minus b. So addition and subtraction. Yeah. Alright, we'll do one more of these. I will do this. Yeah, we'll do this one more. Try 116. Yeah. You don't have to know tan. You don't have to know this. The double angle identities, how you derive them is using sine and cosine sum and difference. That is how you find the double angle identities. Try number 116. And try not to copy off each other. Try your best for the first answer. And don't change your answer after. Because you're not learning if you do that. What is A? A is your alpha here. So that's your measurement. So that would be here for this example. Okay, don't change your answer. And just try your best. A terminal ray is pretty much just where this ray ends. So like the terminal ray in this would be just this. The terminal ray in this would be this. Yeah, and there's other ways to derive stuff, but the simplest way I would say is just memorize sum and difference and use that to find your double angle by just thinking of cosine of 2x is equal to the cosine of x plus x. Right. I will give think 1 more minute. Just get like to 20 votes. Like a third of people. And then okay, 20 votes. So the answer for 116 was C. Any questions on this? Can you go over? Yep. So reading the question, it says we have A and B respectively in standing position. So that means it's just it starts at 0 and rotates. From there, it says the terminal ray of angle A intersects at point P. So that means our angle is this. And the terminal ray of B intersects at this point. Pretty simple. And it says the coordinates of P are 3/4 and the coordinates of Q are 12/5. 12/5. What is sine of 2A? Which means we can ignore B. We don't even need B. That's just that's a distraction. So now we're just gonna look at A. So A. So we can we know the Pythagorean triple, which is so this is cosine, we know this is sine. So this is gonna be 3, this is gonna be 4. And then using the Pythagorean triple, we know this is 5. And now we can use the sine and cosine formulas that everyone knows. Yeah, because you have the exam as well tomorrow. So we know cosine theta is going to be equal to the x value 3 over the radius 5. Sine theta is going to be equal to 4 over 5, right? And now we're going to use our sine 2 theta or our favorite formula, double angle or sum and difference. So we're gonna use we're gonna use sum and difference to showcase the deriving again. You can say sine of 2x is going to be equal to sine x plus x. And then from there, we have, I posted these practice questions in the AP Precalc pins. From there, you have sine of x, cosine of x, plus sine of x, cosine of x, which is going to be equal to 2 sine of x, cosine of x. And now we plug in these numbers. So 2, 4 over 5, and 2, 3 over 5. And if we simplify that, that would be 24 over 25 is equal to 2 sine of alpha. Does that make sense? You will not get a 1 on the real thing if you got a 56 out of 64. How does one get a makeup? If you the makeup is if you miss the if you miss the exam, if for some reason if you have a different AP. For example, French. How many people got 100 in the I do not know that. 1 if we could use that, but if you don't have this memorized, then you could derive it by doing all this. So I was just deriving it for the people who don't have sine 2x memorized. Double angle. Now we'll go to polar, because it looks like people wanted polar the most. Let's see. Let's do this question first. 128. Why do you have to use Pythagorean theorem if sine is that sine theta sine theta is y over r. But if you just use the coordinate, you're just getting the distance, not the theta sine theta. That's the only difference. We could go over FRQs after we get to these polar questions. And 9. Let's see. Based off my time zone, we'll go until exactly 9, and then we'll switch over to FRQs. I'll give like a minute or two for these questions. Yeah, international schools offer AP and IB. And some US schools also offer IB. Like, curve depends on how college kids did. Curve is not depending on how you guys did. College kids took the AP exam 5 to 6 months ago, and then based off how they did, they made score ranges for each college kids who took a pre-calc course similar to AP pre-calc and made score ranges for each thing. That was false. That is not false. You can go search that up on it's literally on College Board's website. So even though Miss W said it's false, it's also on Google and on College Board's website that says there is no curve. So it's not curve, it's score ranges. Like if you get like so it's out of 60, I think it's out of 68 points. So if you get 64, okay. That's 64 points. So if you get like a 0 to like a, I don't know the exact numbers, but this would be like a 1, so on and so on. You can start with any math in college, by the way. You don't start with calculus automatically. Some people take pre-calc as yeah, and he posted how AP develops the scoring. Is the exam expected to be harder or easier? It depends. It should be around the same. A college kid taking pre-calc will not score super high. They will be in the same course as you guys, and yeah, they'll be in the same level of a course. They'll be learning the same information, and actually, it may be harder for them because they don't have a teacher that teaches them throughout the entire year. They just get like an online course to learn. There's no curve. Okay, there is no curve in the AP exam. It scales. It's like a scale range. So like a 0 to a 15, a 16 to a 20, so on and so on. That's how a curve works. Oh, if you did, so if it was a definition of a curve, that means if one person got 100, there is no curve then after that for anybody else. There has never been a curve. It's been score ranges. For this answer, the answer for 128 was D. Any questions on this? Yeah, everyone in this call today is getting a 5. The way you solve this is, best way to solve this was to graph it. I would say graph it. So you would go to pi over 3, which is like around here, and then you would reflect that. So that would be like -2. Because -2, you backtrack through the pole. So now we're going to go through each of these points. -2, -2 pi over 3. So -2 pi over 3 means we're rotating backwards. So we're going to rotate like this, and then we're going to go one more. And then we're going -2, which means we end up here, which means that's false. From here, -2, 5 pi over 3. So we're going to rotate to 5 pi over 3, which means that's going to be over here. going to be over here. And then we're going to go -2, which means we're up here. Which means this is also false. And 2 to -π/3. We would go to -π/3, which should be in this quadrant, because we're going back π/3, and then we're going 2 here, which also doesn't work. And then 2 4π/3. We would rotate to 4π/3, so that's a little bit more than π/3, and then we stay there. If you have a polar axis, right? So you have it's kind of hard to draw polar axis. By going I can't draw -2 by going in the opposite way. So 2 means this would not be a calculator question. This would be, most of the questions are non-calc. Usually your calculator questions are your regressions and maybe like some in context question that, or like some factoring question. How do you find the vertical asymptote of cotangent π/x? We'll try to go over that. Memorize first quadrant. Yeah, memorize the first quadrant in the circle, and then use like your quadrant 1, 2, 3, 4 knowledge from algebra 1 or algebra 2, or all students take calculus. Yeah, all that. So I hope that made sense to anyone that needed it. We'll move on to the next type of question. Let's try this. 130. Yeah, there's a lot of acronyms for all students take, like the ASTC, like the all are positive, a sine is positive, tan is positive, and cosine is positive. There's multiple ways to do it. There's all students take candy, all students take calculus, and there's more interesting ones which I cannot say in the recording. And there's one in the chat, for example. It's just like so this says all your functions are positive, all trig functions are positive. This says sine and secant are positive. This is tan and cotangent, and this is going to be cosine and secant. I did go over unit 2. It is recorded. Hopefully I can get it up by 9:45, like 15 minutes after the lecture, if it uploads real quick, but if I still have memory. But alright, let me see the poll. 130, the answer for 130 was D. Any questions on this? Why is it D? Okay. So it's D because, so first we have this formula, right, that we went over in the beginning, that x is equal to r cosine theta and y is equal to r sine theta. So now we're going to plug in these numbers. We have an r value, and we have a theta value. Now we're going to plug it in. So we're going to have -1. This is how you go from polar to rectangular. So it's -1 cosine of 5π/3, and y is equal to -1 sine of 5π/3. So what is cosine 5π/3? 1/2. So x is equal to -1 times 1/2. So that's going to be -1/2. Which means now you know it's not B or C, just based off that. Now we find y. What is sine 5π/3? Negative square root. Yeah, negative square root 3/2. -1 equals square root 3/2. And that's D. And then from that, you know it's not A. No, it's just converting this to rectangular. Using x is equal to r cosine theta and y equals r sine theta. Any questions on 132 before we move on to a new topic of polar? On this type of converting. No other questions? Okay. So from here, we'll do complex. So try 133. Yeah, try 133. There isn't too many of these questions. Yeah, there'll be max like 4 questions on the entire precalc on all of polar because it's 33% of each and there's 40 questions. So this is converting between polar and complex and polar. Can you go over it after everyone is done answering? Sure. Then it's time to learn it. There may be max 1 question on this topic. So it looks harder than it is. Alright, don't just based off your answer based off what other people are clicking because you're not learning. So yeah, R is equal to so I'll write the formulas. You have R is equal to x squared plus y squared, and then we have tangent tan theta is equal to y over x, and you can find the inverse of both sides. Yeah, that is true. The best ones go on their own path. You don't have to copy everyone else. Is the R equals a base rule? Yeah, this is just a formula. We'll I don't think they'll take that because that is a different function. Cis is a different function. So yeah. Just write cosine I sine. Always. It's a different function. It's I think a hyperbolic function. I don't know. So yeah, always write the entire function out. Don't leave the graders guessing anything. They grade hundreds, maybe thousands in like a week. So yeah. And remember to write in a pencil or pen that is like what do you call it? That great that's pretty dark in the book. So people because they scan your books and then send it. So yeah, make it clear, make it easy. Yeah. MCQ is online, FRQ is on paper, but the questions are online. All right, 133 is C. Does anyone have? So okay, I'll explain this. So first, it says we have the rectangular coordinates -3, comma 3. So that means we have a y and an x. So now we're gonna represent this as a polar and the complex plane. So first, we're gonna plug it into this formula to get our r. So r is equal to the square root of -3 squared, which is 9, plus 9. Which would be r is equal to the square root of 18, or 3 square root 2. Which means it can't be b or d. From there, we have, now we need to find our theta. So there's pi over 4 and 3 pi over 4. There's 2 ways we can do this. We can test it by just going through this entire thing and checking where it lines up, or we can just solve it. So we'll solve it for example. So tan theta is going to be equal to 3 over -3, which means tan theta is going to be equal to -1. Find the inverse of both sides, so multiply by tan -1, tan inverse, which means now we have theta is equal to tan inverse of -1. And where is tan inverse of -1? It's one of like the topics on the tan formula is up here. Tan theta equals y over x. What is tan theta -1? It's negative pi over 4. Okay. You square these two, x squared plus y squared. So it's negative pi over 4. So now we're gonna do a quick sketch. So pi over 4, negative pi over 4 is this line. Which means we don't have a negative pi over 4 option. So that means it can't be A because it's negative. So it has to be 3 pi over 4. So it's C. Can we say it's in the second quadrant because x is negative? Yeah, you could also say that. But this is the mathematical way of going through the entire question. There's always shortcuts of doing this. Any questions on this type of imaginary numbers questions? How do you simplify 18 to square root 3 over 2? So I like this cake method I learned in Algebra 1, which would be 18, and you divide it by 2, which means a 9. Divide by 3 again, which means 3, and then 3, and then you get to 1. And then you have a common multiple, and that gets outside the square root. Are you taking this exam? Yes, I am taking this exam tomorrow. 8 a.m. in EST. So, yeah. So that's how you factor. Next, we'll do this one. We'll do 136. It's a different type of question. In 44 minutes. Yeah, we'll switch over. We'll switch at 9. We'll go until 9:45. We're going to 9:45. We already went over binomial theorem and semilog, but binomial theorem is just Pascal's triangle, and semilog is y-axis is logarithmically scaled. No, not for FRQ2. They are not in FRQ2. Those two topics. We're doing MCQ until 9, yeah, and then we'll do from 9 to 9:45 FRQs. 45 minutes for whichever FRQ is the most wanted from 1 through 4. Which I'll do another poll. Do not spam the chat. We don't want another mod in here. Yeah, okay, sure. I'll give a minute for this question. I'll give a minute for this question. 136. I'll go until 8:46 on this timer in the bottom recorder. How long is review gonna last for? It's gonna max last until 9:45 p.m. So exactly 1 more hour. I am a sophomore. Yeah. Which FRQs? FRQ 1 and 2 are calculator, FRQ 3 and 4 are non-calc. And also remember to put the calculator under your desk after the calculator section is over. The proctors sometimes will tell you, sometimes they won't. So remember to always put it under your desk after your calculator section. No, FRQ2 is the exponential stuff like that. It's like your exponential, quadratic, stuff like that. FRQ3 is your quadratic. Can we go to FRQ1 and 2 after calc? You can go back, but you can't see the questions anymore. Do you have any tips / mnemonic devices to memorize the sum and difference trig formulas? Okay, there is a few that I learned yesterday in one of the calls, but I cannot say those out loud, so I'll say the other ones. So sine plays nicely, so that means the signs match, which means this is gonna be a plus, and cosine plays like meanly, so the sign is different. That's one thing. And if the cool savage wants to type the other one in the chat, he can, but I can't say it out loud on the recording. So he knows which one I'm talking about, but he knows which one I'm talking about. We're talking about the mnemonic device that we talked about in that VC that one day. Yeah, okay. Now we're gonna the answer for 136 was B. And the way you do this is just simplifying cosine negative 2 pi over 3 and then 4. Yeah, or I think it was Rumblings. Yeah, it was Rumblings' idea, and he told us that. yeah, yeah. Now we're gonna move on to we'll do this one 138. Do not hop on League right now. If you're gonna do anything except studying until like 10:30, yeah, and in 10:30 local time, you're gonna go to sleep. That's all you're doing. You're gonna go wake up fresh early and be prepared. And don't stress it over the night. Just sleep nicely, and you'll do great tomorrow. And we'll all talk about it on in 2 days when the FAQs release. Can we go over Limacons? I'm not gonna go over any of them in specific. We're just gonna do these MCQ practice. We're gonna these polar questions, and I need to perfect the rest because I didn't learn about it. These polar questions. The polar questions go until 158, but we're not doing every single polar question, so maybe cardio loop. Limacons is that loop. Yeah, or yeah, cardioid. Yeah. You don't have to be able to identify them. You just have to know what they are, so you can all of these docs and everything I'm using today are in the pins. Luminescentes are not in the AP exam. That is Calculus BC polar. Yeah, pretty much the way to do these questions are to graph the rectangular function and then answer it. Or plug and chug. That's also another option. The answer to 138 is D. Any questions? We want me to pick up the pace, so explanation. Okay. Can we go over? No. I do not know when Archimedean spiral is, so I cannot go over that. So, how you go? How do you answer this question? Is we see that it's symmetrical across the x-axis, so it can't be sine because cosine is symmetrical across the x-axis. And then we see our maximum is 1 plus is 3, so then that also lines up for both of them. And finally, you have a line an inner loop, which means there's gonna be 1 plus 2. And the best way to test this would be just to graph it out. So I'm not gonna graph it out for time's sakes, because that's gonna take a little bit longer. But yeah. Hope that made sense. We'll do one last question for polar. Alright, would you rather do this type of question or would you do a rate of change question? Both? Okay. Alright. Why was there an inner loop in that function? Because if a divided by b is less than 1, it's inner limacon. It has an inner loop. Yeah. If b is greater than 1, no, if hold up. I'll find the thing. Hold up. Try answering 140 while I find this thing real quick. Here. Alright, hold up. I'm gonna show this thing. Can you see it real quick? Can you guys see the thing that I'm presenting? Yes? Okay. So, limacons. If A is less than B to 1, it has an inner loop. If A to B is equal to 1, it's the cardioid. If it's 1 between 1 and 2, it's that it's just a normal limacon, and then if it has 2, it's a dimpled limacon, which is pretty much almost a circle. That's what these 4 are. And that's for sine. Cosine and negative flips it. Then there's the rows. Polar will not be on the FRQ. So yeah. Can you send us that? Yeah, sure. It's not specifically for AP, but it has a general like formulas. Alright. The answer for this question is oh, you want me to wait? Okay, hold on. I'll wait. Let me see how many people answered the poll. Alright, only 6 people. Okay, I'll wait another Like, I'll wait until 8:54. Yeah, Polar is on Calc BC FRQs, but not in AP Precalc. Test has there will be at least one MCQ on Polar, guaranteed, of one of these things that we've covered so far. Yeah, lock in intent. Answer the question. We still have 10 people who voted on this poll. This is going to be our second to last MCQ, and then we're going to go on to the FRQs. We'll do one more Polar MCQ about rate of change, and then we'll go on to the F. I will talk about it later. I can DM you that if you really care, but I don't play the game anymore. Half angle is not on the test. Double angle and sum and difference are. Alright, the answer for 140 is D. Any questions? For 140 is D. Yeah, why D? Alright, the way you do this is you first graph the rectangular plane. So you would graph it, and we would do 3 periods. So we would have 2 pi 3, 4 pi 3, and 2 pi, and then we would have this says 0, 3, negative 3, because the amplitude goes 3 up and down. We have 3 points in between always, and then we would just start plugging in values, and we would graph the sine function, which starts here, goes up, down, boom, boom, and it says between only pi over 2 to 2 pi over 3, so I'm not going to graph the entire thing. So from here, I'm going to change color so people can see what I'm highlighting. So it says pi over 2, so half of this would be pi over 3, this would be pi over 6, and this would be pi over 2. So that means we're looking at this section right here. And from here, you have so at pi over 2, it's at negative 3. So as you're going here, it's starting from here. And then as it's going back to the pole, which at 0, so as you're going back to the pole, you're negative. So that means as you're going around, you're going back to here. So it's from C to D because of that. Does that make sense for anyone? Do that for anyone that didn't get it right. Alright, for logs, watch the lecture I hosted on Saturday. It's in the spreadsheet, and if anybody has that like saved, could someone post that? I went over multiple Unit 2 MCQs, so I'm not gonna do that, but yeah, sorry. Stats is fun. Stats is fun. I will agree. Stats is fun. I'm still confused. What are you confused about? Why isn't it quadrant 4? So pretty much, so you know why it starts at C, right? Because we have negative 3 pi over 2 as a coordinate, right? So that means it starts at C. So it can't be these two. Does that make sense? Because B to D would not work because there's a point at pi over 2 negative 3. If you graph the sine function, there's a point at negative 3 pi over 2. There's a point here, which means that would be at C. And then from there, you would go to 2 pi over 3. And you're going back to the polar axis because your area is decreasing. So it can't be D to C because that would be increasing area. So now we're decreasing, so we're going back to the pole. Can we use a calculator? Depends. It could be a calculator, non-calculator question. I don't know. But we'll do one more question. Do one of the rate to change. Can't hold. there a rate of change question? We'll do this one. 154 as our last question of MCQ, and then we'll go to FRQ. Exactly ends in 9. So we'll, can we use Desmos polar mode? Yes, you can. If it's a calculator section. Is it always counterclockwise? It will always start from here and go to here. So if that's counterclockwise, then yes. If it's yeah, just graph the sine and cosine function and look at the domain. Yep, that's it. Just always graph the sine and cosine function in rectangular form, or like your nice 2 pi, pi over 2, 3 pi over 2, if it's a period of 1, and just graph it like that. That's the best way to do these. So now, answer this last question. There's one more minute. Trying to find where the average rate of change of R with respect to theta is the least. Oh, I can make a poll. You can graph this one. Alright, if you don't know how to do these, you should be fine. This is max one question, this rate of change type of question, but yeah, that's one way to do it. That could honestly work. Where do you get the line graph stuff from? Let's see. Okay. Answer to this one for 154 was D, and most of you got that right. So, any questions on this? See you in 10. Good luck. Explain. Okay. So it says which is the following of the rates of change is the least with respect to theta. So we know that we know our slope equation was y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1, right? Or f of b minus f of a divided by b minus a, right? So now there's one way of doing this. We could just test points. You could just start going a to b. If you know this is we could just go testing points like that. So we could just start testing each point one by one, and that would be the way to solve this. For time's sake, I'm not going to test each point because that would take way too long to test each point individually. And it also says from D to A, and D to A has hold up. Actually, never mind. So yeah, the best way to do this would be just to plug and chug, unless the Cool Savage has a better way of testing these questions. Can I graph this? You cannot graph this because you do not have a function. They don't give you a function to graph. I meant to, yeah. So the best way to do this would be just to just test and do values. So yeah, it would be R1. No, it would be theta. It would be theta 2 minus theta 1 divided by R2 minus R1. No wait, never mind. It would be the other way. It would be the other way. It would be the other way. It would be R2 minus R1. And it would be theta 2 minus theta 1 because this is your inputs. So what was the question? Can you plug one in? Sure. We'll test D to A. So D is at like I'd say like 5-ish. So the radius is 5, and A is at like I'd say 3, and theta would be around the 7 pi over 4, and this would be at 0 pi. So this would be 2 7 pi over 4, or 8 7 pi over 8 divided by 7 pi. You can also check when the ROC is decreasing, either R is increasing and theta is decreasing or vice versa. Yeah, you could also do that. Yeah, as in the smallest number, yeah. Which FRQ are we doing? That's a great question. You guys decide that. So, 1, 2, 3, or 4. Depending on which FRQ you do, there will be FRQ. So FRQ 1 is this one. It's like your table. FRQ 2 is your like a data table of rates of change. FRQ 3 is this trig one, and FRQ 4 is just solving. It's just solving. Hold up. Damn, 30 votes. Okay. We're doing FRQ 4 because that has a clear winner. There's a clear winner in that. There's 18 to 7 to 7. So we're gonna do FRQ 4. This FRQ practice is pinned in AP Precoc. So, oh yeah, how long would you guys want to work on these questions for? We're gonna work on these next ones anyway. But how a minute per question? You're not solving this entire. For parts A through C, for all parts, by the way, 10 minutes per FRQ. I can. You get 15 minutes on the exam for the actual FRQ. So, 10 minutes per question. Okay, I'll give you guys 10 minutes. I'm not gonna give you 15 because then we can only do 2 FRQs and we can review. If you're already done, we'll try this one. We'll do this one, a random one. So try this one. Let me see the version. Okay, is this posted too? Yes, everything I've done today is posted in the AP Precoc pins. I don't have it downloaded currently right now to send it here without these edits. So just check the AP Precoc pins. Where's the AP? So it's in the AP Precoc channel. So if you get the role of AP Precoc, you can click since subject chain. Yeah, we're doing all of it. 10 minutes, by the way. So we're going until 9. I'll say 9:15. So 9:15 in the clock in the bottom right corner will go until. Yeah, we're doing this one. This is just a random one. The one and only Passwater. Yep. Where did you get? It's from Brian Passwater. So yeah, everyone got these same papers. These are pretty much the only FRQ practice. Is Passwater a pass grader? He's just someone in the AP. No, scroll down. There's a ton of pins right now. So just scroll down in the AP Precoc pins. Is Password a pass grader? I think he is a grader, but he also does like he's in the calculus scene. He's like in all the math. He's in both of the calc and precoc world. So he's seen like he's a helper and everything. But I don't know who Password is in real world. I just know he's a guy who makes these. Yeah, that's why. Some of these questions are a little bit harder. But it's always good to have hard practice compared to easy practice because then you're prepared for the hardest type of question. Yeah, I'll give until 9:15. I'll be back. I need to go get some water real quick. I'm back. I see you, local rice farmer. Good luck on your exam, if you're still here, but I don't reveal the answers after each one. We'll go over all of them in 9:15. What is the best way for a 2-hour cram session? Don't. That is the best answer. Just don't. You know more than you know. You cramming won't remember. I forgot who said it, but whatever you cram comes right back out of your head. It was like Newton's third law or something. I think it was the cool Savage that said that. I forget. I think he told someone that same thing, that whatever you put in comes out the same way. Yeah, but it's true. You just won't remember it. I think even the AP World teacher said that in the channel, and the Miss W also said that if you, yeah. This is a non-calc question. Polar graphs they are calculated, like finding derivatives and stuff like that, but just analyzing them is basic AP Precalc. If this is hard, no, they cover different stuff. So, if we have time, I gotta go at 9:45. So, I'm not gonna say that out loud, but I can say in the AP Precalc after this, but I don't want this on recording. Hey, you will not repeat this class. You will be fine. I have 5 more minutes. Do I lose points for canceling a numbers with a slash? Does that count as a... No, that wouldn't be counted as non-scored stuff, because it's Precalc necessary to pass technically like college credit wise. Depends which college you're going to. No, we're only doing FRQ 4. I did a poll and FRQ 4 won by a majority. So yeah. Depends. I'll do one more poll after this for one last FRQ, and that's it. And whichever poll wins, we'll do one more example. If it's FRQ 4 again, we'll do a different version of. We'll do a different model. But for now, lock in on this. Finish these. We'll go until 9:45, and then I would recommend that everyone, if you're in EST, go to sleep, and if not, in 1 hour, go to sleep. Or 2 hours or 3 hours, depending on which zone you're in. If you're in EST, yeah, go to sleep at 9:45, 10. You have to wake up early the next day. It's not worth it. At 9:45, in like 30 minutes. That would be recommended. It's not worth the cram. You're not going to remember it by the time you wake up tomorrow. If you stay up, you're not remembering it during the exam. I already ate dinner. I'm not saying on call. What is Five Hive? Five Hive is the organization that hosts these lectures. Forgot to do that in introduction thing. Like, Five Hive hosts these lectures. We're not affiliated with College Board. They don't endorse us. We're not affiliated with them. All that. So yeah. And if you want to apply, you can check the Five Hive announcements. I don't think it's open right now. Yeah, you could definitely be a good Five Hive teacher. You just have to apply. There's like an application process. Sometimes there's a mock, and that's it. All right, 2 minutes left. Is it worth it? Yeah. As soon as you start the exam, yeah, it's worth it to write the trigger identities down. You can, it's volunteering, so it could help with college apps. It does hold on. It doesn't give. It depends on which college you go to, and depends what major you're applying to. All of that. Like if for example, I think Harvard accepts pre-calc for a 5 if you're doing a non-STEM major. No, it's way more than 200 now. Yeah, like if you're doing a non-STEM major, they accept it. I'm not trying to be a doctor or a lawyer, so no, I'm not going to go to Harvard. No. I'm not. They're mostly like not tech. I'm trying to do CS. So, 2 minutes. Okay, 2 minutes. We can talk about. We can have a fun conversation after the AP exam. Let's lock in for the next 30 minutes. All right, 1 minute left, and then we're gonna go over the answers. Yeah, okay. We can go over C. Okay. I will go over the answers now. I guess just for time's sake. This is a non-calc question. FRQ 3 and 4 is non-calc. Alright, so first we have the first answer for this one is the answer would be E is to the power of 11x minus 1. Does that make sense for everyone for this first one? Yes? Okay, next one. Then next one. I should stop writing minus. You don't get it? We can go over it. Alright, so the way you would do this is first we would simplify. So first we would multiply the so this says simplify in ax plus b form. So yeah, I'm explaining it. So first this would become e to the 10x because of the exponent rule times e to the x plus 3 divided by e to the 4. And if you remember, division means exponent subtraction. So now we have e to the 10x times e to the x plus 3 times e to the negative 4th. And now that we're multiplying them, we can add them all together. Now we have e to the 10x plus x plus 3 minus 4, which is e to the 11x minus 1. Does that make sense to everyone? For A? I. Makes sense? I have to erase it so I can do the next one. Next one. The next answer for this one, for A of A, I'm just calling A2. For A2 is negative tan to the third x. Any questions on this one? Nope. Can you show the work for that? Sure. So for this one, you would first. So this is a simplifying question. So we know that we have our Pythagorean theorem, which is sine squared of x plus cosine squared of x is equal to 1. So now we're gonna convert this into tan and secant, which means we need to divide by cosine squared of x to every term. So sine squared divided by cosine squared is tan squared of x. Cosine is going to be 1, and this is going to be secant squared of x. Now we're going to try to get it to 1 minus secant squared of x. So we need to get we need to get tan by itself. So tan squared of x is going to be equal to secant squared of x minus 1. But now that we see it's 1 minus, so now we need to multiply everything by negative 1 so we can flip it. So now negative tan squared of x is going to be equal to 1 minus secant squared of x. And then we plug that in. So that would be negative tan squared of x times tan of x. Which means it would be negative tan to the third x. Let me see. Let's check the chat. Yeah, you would write x squared. You need to trigger identities of tan. You need to know this one, the Pythagorean theorem one, but you don't need to know like sum and difference or double angle. is 1 plus tan squared. Yeah, that's the same thing. It's just different order. But you can multiply by -1. You can algebraic manipulate it to get different numbers. Alright, does that make sense for a of I 2? Yes? Now we'll move on to b of I. So b of I, the first part is x is equal to 3. Any questions? I multiplied both sides by -1. Isn't this no? It says solve j of x equals 3 for all values of domain of j. It's not -6 because if you plug in -6 to this one, it would be extraneous. It would be log 2 of -8, which doesn't exist. How'd they get 5 over? You want me to go over this one? Yeah, sure. So first, it says solve. So we're gonna be simplifying it. So log 2 of x plus 5 plus log 2 of x minus 2. We have the same base, so we can condense it. So log 2 x plus 5 and x minus 2 is equal to 3. Now we can use the property of logs, switching between logs and exponentials. So now we can say 2 to the power of 3 is going to be equal to x plus 5, x minus 2. You cannot use calc on this section, no calc. FRQ 4 and 3 are non-calc, FRQ 1 and 2 are calc. And when it switches, please put the calculator under your desk. This would be 8 is equal to x squared, it would be x plus 5, x minus 2. You don't have to, depends on your proctor. And this would become x squared plus 5x minus 2x minus 10. So this would be x squared plus 3x minus 10 is equal to 8. X squared plus 10x minus 18. And then factor, which would get you your factors of x minus 3 and x plus 6 equal to 0. Which means 3 and -6, and -6 extraneous because it would be negative. Yeah, you're cooked if you don't know how to factor. I'm sorry to inform you. You get 15 minutes per FRQ, but it's 30 minutes for the first two, 30 minutes for the second two. Okay. Any questions on B of I? Before we go to B of I2, C, and then we'll move on to a new topic. Any questions on B of I? I thought, you mean the B of I squared? Okay, we'll do B of I squared. -6 isn't a solution because it's extraneous. It would be negative log, which doesn't exist. This domain of J is just all that. It's just saying for all values, pretty much. This one says in the interval of 0 to 2 pi, saying all possible values that exist in log's domain. Yeah, the answer is x equals 3. So why is -6 not counted? If you plug in -6 into this equation, you would get log of 2 -1 plus log of 2 -8, which doesn't exist. You can't have log. Questions differ. Some may be easier, some may be harder, depending on your skill. For this one, this idea is the same idea. 0 is equal to 2 sine of x cosine x plus sine of x. And the way you would solve this, I would say, would be first to factor out sine of x. And if it doesn't work, you can always try a different way after solving. So now we have two equations. We can say sine of x is equal to 0, and that happens at 0 and pi, and it doesn't include 2 pi, so we're not going to say 2 pi. I'm going to say 2 cosine x plus 1 is equal to 0. Cosine x is equal to -1/2, which happens at 2 pi 3, 4 pi 3. So those are our solutions. For BI, do I have to check my solutions? Yes, you do. Or you would get extraneous solution. Where do you get 2 cosine? I factored. So I factored out sine of x, and I got 2 cosine of x. Can you solve an equation that has 1 equals 2 cosine 2 pi of x plus 1? We can maybe do that. We gotta do that for. Alright. The answer for is. Did everyone understand this one? B of I. Yes, okay. I can erase it because I can't do the next one without. Alright, finally, this one. The idea is the same. The answer for this last one is there's 2 solutions. You have 1/2 e to the third and 1/2 e. Does that make sense? Or you want me to go through this one as well? How you solve this? Okay. So I haven't done this one, so this will be the first time. So -3 is equal to ln of 2x squared times -4 times ln of x. So I would assume to do this like you know how we did in trig with when we have like multiple variables like 2 sine of x, we substitute a variable like y, for example. We're gonna substitute a value. Yeah, or in it's called u sub, but we're gonna call it substitution. So first we need to add 3 to the other side. So we're gonna say 0 is equal to ln of 2x squared times -4 times ln of x plus 3. Now there's another step. We have 2x. We need to bring this out of here so we can do substitution or u sub or whatever you want to call it. So we're going to say 2 ln of x squared times -4 ln of x plus 3. From there, now we can do our substitution. It's just substitution. It's just substitution. We're saying sub it is as a u or a or a b. Yeah, it's 2 of x. I brought the 2 out. Oh wait, now I see what you mean. Hold up. I see what you mean. From here it's not 2 of it's yeah, hold up. So from here we have ln of 2x, which means we are gonna have to we can expand it. So it'll be ln of ln times ln of x times -4 ln of x. Yeah, you could factor it. Yeah, because remember the property that we said before that we can add these together. We can do the reverse. You're doing -4. No, this is a new step. This is a new step. Every line is a new step. Oh, is it ln of x? Oh, yeah, I see. My bad. Hold up. Let's restart this. I didn't read the question carefully. So, see, read the question carefully. Yeah. Is cramming involved? Cramming is not important. -3 is equal to ln of 2x squared times -4 ln of 2x. So we're going to say ln of 2x is going to be equal to, for everyone that's been wanting it, we're going to say it's going to be u, for everyone that's been asking for this entire time. So we're going to add 3 to both sides, and we're going to say u squared minus 4u plus 3. And now we're going to factor. What is u? It's just our temporary variable. We're going to call it temp variable for now. No, you can use y. Okay, fine. If I don't want to use u, we can use we can say ln of 2x is going to be equal to y. Doesn't matter what variable it is. It's just a substitution. So we can be simpler. Alright, hold up. I'll answer any questions after. So let me get through it once. So -4y plus 3. Now we're gonna factor. That would be y minus 3, y minus 1. And now we're gonna plug back in this. So now it's gonna be ln of 2x minus 3 and ln of 2x minus 1 is equal to 0. From there, now we can set them as independent factors like we do for trig. So now we can say ln of 2x minus 3 is equal to 0. ln of 2x is equal to 3. And then we'll do the same thing here. ln of 2x minus 1 is equal to 0. ln of 2x is going to be equal to 1. Now we can raise it to powers and stuff. So now we're going to do the exponential to logs formula, which is like changing from an exponential to log. So now we're going to raise both sides to the power of e. Cancel out the log and the ln. So from here, e of ln cancels out. So now 2x is going to be equal to e to the third. Same thing here. 2x is going to be equal to e to the 1. 2x is going to be equal to e to the 1. Divide by 2 on both sides. X is equal to 1/2 e to the third, and x is equal to 1/2 e. And that is it. What if we don't do u sub? You don't have to do u sub. You can. It's just you can't go further than that. You need a You would need a calculator, and it says, otherwise specified. Use It says when determine exact values of any expression that can be without a calculator. E cannot be calculated. Yeah. Alright. So it's just we don't have to call it u sub. We can call it whatever we want. We can call it substitution, like how we did in the polynomials unit with like x fourth times x plus x squared plus 1, where we substituted x squared is like y and said y squared plus y plus 1 to make it simpler. So yeah. So yeah, that's how you do this. So any questions on these FRQ4? And I'll do one more poll and then we'll do one more FRQ. ln(f(x), can you explain what to do after the 2x? So we said that, so from here we said that ln of 2x is going to be equal to a new variable called y. And then we substituted that into our equation so we can do basic quadratic factoring like we learned in Algebra 1 or Algebra 2 or whatever you learned to do before APP Calc. So then you factor it, and then you can replace ln of 2x back when it's all simpler. Did that make sense? Rin1Z? Ziba? We just substitute a value so it's simpler to solve. Do slashes count as erased or crossed out? No, because if you do like for example a rational function like x minus 3 squared x minus 3, most people would cancel these out and it would be x minus 3. So I don't think they would take it off points for that, but it should be fine. Alright. Any other questions on FRQ4 before we move on? I got e of -1. I can't put it's in the answers for all these FRQs and APP Calc pins like always. It's called like FRQ4 model and we're on model E right now. So Brian Passweather is a very nice guy. He's made very nice resources. Alright. I'll do one more poll. Last poll of the day. And Alright. Whichever FRQ wins this thing, we'll do one more of that or repeat or whatever. Whichever one wins. I will give a minute. You're supposed to vote, yeah. Don't say in the chat. Don't spam the chat. We don't want another mod in here. To increase slow mo to 10 minutes. Like slow mode in the mornings of the exam are 1 hour, so we don't want it to be like that in here. So yeah, we don't want it with slow mode of 1 hour. So right now, the poll is saying FRQ3. So we will be doing FRQ3. So yeah, we're doing FRQ3. I do not have the time to do an FRQ. I have to go do a history project, so change to 2. It's tied now. Now it's 2. Okay. Now it's 2 again. Interesting. Okay. I guess we're doing FRQ 2. So yeah. Okay. We're doing FRQ 2 now. So I will give we're doing FRQ 2 now. We'll do Model A for this case, because unless someone's done Model A. If someone's done Model A, I'll skip to a random one. Has someone done Model A of FRQ 2? Let me check the poll. What does the poll say? Final solution. Yeah, FRQ 2 is winning by a good amount. Alright. So, calc is allowed for FRQ 2. So, we will do FRQ 2 now. I will give, and I will do 10 minutes for this one, because. Yep. You did Model A? Okay, yeah, yes, I'm sure. We'll do this one. We'll do F, Model F. Alright. I will give 10 minutes. So until 9:44. Okay. Okay, yeah. So this will be our last FRQ for today, the last AP Precalculus thing I will be teaching for this AP exam season. We will be ending at 10. Will you teach Calc BC next year? I will not be teaching. They have great teachers. They have some really good teachers. Reading, the Cool Savage, they have such great teachers. I do not need to teach that subject. Yeah, you should definitely sleep after. I may help. I'll see. I'll be doing precalc still. I'll definitely be doing precalc next year again. But yeah, we'll go until time to type in the chat 9:44. So okay, hop off league JPS 444. They're doing a regression on Desmos. It is so much easier. Can you be a senior in high school and do what, like AP Precalc exam, or you can lecture whenever you want. Okay, can you actually do the FRQ? Because if no one's gonna do the FRQ, then we can end it. You round to for your final answer, round to the third decimal place, and for or truncate at the fourth. How do you do regression in Desmos? Check the spreadsheet and post it again. How much you have to round to the round at your final answer. Don't round in between your answer. Round at the final answer. That's why it's calculator now. Yeah, 3 decimals at your final place. So if you have 2.0009, you can leave it like this, or you can round to this, or truncate at the fourth. So if you had, so yeah. When do you use regression for for this, and when you do algebra, for the work you always have to do algebra. They do not if you say regression as your answer, they will not accept it. You have to show work. It says I don't know if this one says show work. This one doesn't say show work, but on the AP exam it says show work. So if it says show work always. And remember to fill the lecture feedback form before you leave. Yep, Desmos is saving lives. It saves a lot of time. So yeah. How much time is that? 5 minutes. If it's a quadratic for question 2, do not overreact. You can maybe do like a nice victory, like thumbs up under the seat, or like a yay under the seat, but don't do anything that'll get you in trouble. Yeah, if you overreact, you'll get kicked out, definitely, depending on who your proctor is. What time does lecture start? It started at 7:40, like 7:45, so like 2 hours ago, pretty much exactly. I will be going until after. No, I didn't start it exactly. It was supposed to start exactly at 7:45, but I started a little bit early, so yeah. Yeah, sure. Have you talked about triple B? Yeah. This is our last questions for the day. So if you have any Q&A questions, ask in these 4 minutes left, and that's the only questions I'll be answering for today. And I gotta go as well, so. Talking about AP Bio, I already took it. I took the AP Bio exam this year. It was good, not the worst, not the best. What decimals place? Round to the third decimal place. How do I know when to say? Okay, so you know when to say the plus 2 pi k stuff. You say the 2 pi k stuff when when it says all solutions or all values in the domain. If it doesn't give a domain restriction, you always have to put the plus 2 pi k or the plus pi k for tangent cotangent. And also, Goose God, make sure it's not AP Classroom material, please. Make sure it's like something in the AP Precalc pins or found on Google. Don't put something from AP Classroom. Don't put something. Yeah, you guys can do whatever you want. Thanks. When solving a function requires to get cancel a log or cancel an exponential, you could do that. Yeah, exactly. Wonder if there's any mods in here today. Any mods in here today? That these 40 with a pretty full. You're a mod. You're not a mod. You don't have the orange. Why can't it be AP Classroom? It can't be AP Classroom because there's some rule that was set up by it's secure material, and it's it's secure material. It's against the server rules. And according to some people who were here long before me, the server got shut down because of AP Classroom material before. So they made that a rule after that. So yeah. They won't hunt you down, they'll hunt down the server. Yeah, they're gatekeeping about their stuff, exactly. Okay, 2 minutes left for the FRQs. Okay. Alright, 1 minute left, and we'll go over the answers. I'll try to answer the best I can for these questions. How you know what the first point is? The first point is usually at if there's no shifts, it usually starts at the x-axis. So like here, it goes up one by amplitude and goes one down by the amplitude. Depends. Is it copyright? Is it like would the person that made that come hunt you down type of thing? Like AP Classroom will come hunt you down. Brian Passwater will not let you come hunt you. Brian Passwater would be pretty nice about it. Stuff like that. How can you graph a cotangent function? So a cotangent function would start like if you have your x-axis here, you have an asymptote on your x-axis. You have a point here, a point here, a point here, and another asymptote at exactly pi. So this would be a pi. Yeah, this is for cotangent. With transformations, then you would have to shift it, you have to expand or compress, etc. Wait, tan of x equals tan of negative x. Okay, I'm gonna go over these because we're pulling up on the time. So first, the answer for s of hold on, a of I. A of I, the two equations would be a hold on, would be AB of 3 equals 4 and AB of 7 equals 23. Any questions on this? On part A of I? I locked back in for the FRQ, FRQ 2. No? No tango? Okay. Alright. Next, A of I, if you did 4,000, it says in the thousands. So it says number of signatures in thousands, S of T. So you have to use 4 and 23. So they would take off a point for that. Yeah, that's the first answer. Alright. Next answer for this, A is equal to 1.077 and B is equal to 1.549. Any questions on this? How? Okay. Yeah, sure. A bit less space to work with. Okay. So first, we have our we had our formula. How do you solve this? Right. So you'd say we had the first formula, right? Someone wrote in the chat. It's A of B of 3 is equal to 4. So now we're gonna simplify that. So now that we only have A left, so we're gonna divide by B of the 3 on both sides. A is equal to 4 divided by B to the third. Now we also had our other formula, A to the B to the 7 equals 23. Now we're gonna substitute A for A. So now we have 4 to the B to the third times B to the 7th equals 23. This will be B to the 4th. So it'll be 4B to the 4th equals 23. Divide by 4 on both sides. B is equal to the 4th enter root 23 over 4. And if you enter that in your calculator, you would get 1.077. And then you would use that in your original formula and say A to the 1.077 cubed equals 4. Divide by that on both sides. Yeah, you have to use you have to show the work. Always show your work if you can. It's always better to show work. And just divide on both sides. A is equal to A is equal to 1.077. Any questions? I didn't get any of that. I'll explain this because it's kind of hard to write at this small pace. So A to the B to the third equals 4, right? We divide by B to the third on both sides, which gets A equals 4 divided by B thirds. From there, we have A to the B to the 7th equals 23. Now we plug in the A value we factored, and then we cancel out and simplify. Yeah, you can truncate at the 4th decimal only. So I don't have the exact values because I'm just looking at the key for this because, yeah. So before the B to the 4th equals 23. From there, divide by 4 on both sides and do the enter in the calculator or decimals or TI. You get a b value of 1.077. From there, plug it into one of your original equations, doesn't matter, and then solve for a. We have to show the work in a to the I. Just write the equation in AI. Yeah, they let you truncate at the 4th decimal. If you round, you have to do it at the 3rd. Okay, I'm not repeating that. Okay. Next part. A to the A is equal to B divided by 4/3. Yep, and then simplify. Keep plugging in stuff and doing that. Alright. Okay. B to the I. For this, you would use so we would do S of 7 minus S of 3 equals 7 minus 3. And then we're going to use the values from the original. So 23 minus 4 divided by 4 is equal to 19 divided by 4 is equal to 4.75 thousands of signatures per day. Does that make sense for B of I? Does A not equal A divided by B over 4? A equals 4 divided by B to the 3rd. Or A equals 23 divided by B to the 7th. Should we round it to 4 point? Yeah, just do that. You could also do that, but remember, this isn't a slope anymore. This is exponential. Yeah, it's pretty much the same as decimals. You have to use function notation. So S of 7, S of 3, 7 minus 3, and plug in values. For B of I, yep. For any question on B of I? Yeah, whatever. Any questions on this first part? We got to this. Any questions on this? You can type in a regression formula, but if you don't show your work, so depending on the rubric or the question, it sometimes doesn't give you need points for work. Depending on A of I was just writing the equation. That would be just saying A B third equals 4th and A B 7 equals 23. That's all AI is. And does that make sense? FRQ, yeah, FRQ 2 is very tedious. Yeah, FRQ 3, where you make this the what do you call it? Just find the average rate of change in I to estimate the in thousands. And the way we do this after 13 days, the way we do this is we're making a point slope or slope equation. So we're gonna say S of t equals S of 7 plus R t minus 7. Yeah. And then we're gonna plug in 13. And R is going to be this thing. So this is going to be our R. So we're going to say it's going to be 4.75. 4.75 times R minus 7. And then from there, it's going to be plugging all that in. We would get 51.5. Does that make sense? Yeah, this is a little bit hard to write. I'll post the answer key in the chat because this is really hard to write. And this is the answer key to scoring guidelines. Any questions on any of them, I'll try explaining from there. I think that's easier. I'll explain whichever one doesn't make sense. Yeah, FRQ2 is just, can you go through, where I find the scoring guidelines? You can search up 2024, or you can check pins for these examples. B of I, can you go through B of I and B to the I? Okay. B to the I is just making your it's trying to find the average rate of change. So we're gonna use the slope we used our slope from before, and we're gonna use R minus 7 to start from this value of 7 as our last value that we know, and then do at R minus 7. We're gonna say we'll lose a point to RF is increasing as I hope. B of 3. B of 3, the explanation according to this is the average rate of change from S to 7 are greater because S is exponential and concave up. So you can plug and chug, but you need to write it down because it says show the computations that lead to your work. So yeah, just write about the average rate of change, how it's increasing over equal length input intervals, all that. Does that make sense? Can you explain B of I again? Alright, so B of I is pretty much using the rate of change you found here and making a slope equation and then plugging in a value. So we're gonna say T of 13 and we're gonna plug in T of 13. Use calculus reasoning at 0 points. Yeah, no calculus. You have to use precalc. So we're gonna say S of 7 because that's our first point. That's our last point that we know of. I'm gonna say plus 4.75. And then from there, we're gonna say it's gonna be R minus 7 because that's V starting from there. And then we're gonna say after 13 days. So we're gonna say of 13 minus 7. So that's gonna be 6, 4.75. S of 7 would be 23. And this would be 51.5. Does that make sense? Yeah. Hopefully that made sense to anyone that didn't understand that. Alright. I of B of I. Alright, so the answer for this was about how the linear line is the linear function of rate of change is greater than the average rate of change. So the exponential has a greater rate of change than the linear function because exponential raises faster and concavity. And by the way, he just joined. Yeah, he knows. Yeah, okay. Should I write a sentence for BI? You don't have to. If you have time, always write more is better. Alright. Finally, C. The answer for C is pretty long. So I will just put the answer because I'm not writing all that down. B of I. Okay, that's the answer for C. This is the answer for B to the I to the third. So this is the first one is C. The second one is B to the I to the third. And that's what your answer should include. It should include that vocabulary. It should include the average rate of change, and C should include it says how should have more confidence in when using because when you extrapolate you have less confidence pretty much. So yeah, extrapolate means they would accept extrapolate. I would say just say extrapolating outside the data set and average rate of change. You don't know how the data values are changing. Yeah, it's a very good word. Recommend taking stats if you like that word. Any questions on FRQ 2? Seems quite light, yeah. Not that bad. APP Calc ain't that bad. Alright, can you explain BI one more time? Sure. Yeah, it's all these FRQs are pretty direct. Sentence questions were not easy. Okay, depends on which one you're taking. Alright. B of II. So it says estimate the I'll just erase. It's easier. Start from the beginning. Take Brian Passwater. It depends. Alright, so yeah, he makes some of his things harder, some of his things easier. So it depends. So it says find the average rate of change using the value from, and you're supposed to use the value from before. So first, we have S of 7. That's our last value that we know of. And then we're gonna plug in. I erased it. It would be 4.75. Alright. So plus 4.75. And then we're gonna be multiplying that by R minus 7. Because that's our last value, and we're trying to go above that. So if we want to know, we're going to use our last value, our y-intercept, and then keep going past that. We don't have a brand password for Calc BC, but there's other stuff. Alright, and if you want more FRQ videos, Michael hold up, He goes over the FRQs if you really need FRQ. If you need anything that's struggling. So he does also stats, but look at the precalc stuff. But alright, what is C saying? C is asking if you have more confidence in model S. Alright, for which value of T, 6 or 19? This is our last FRQ. Turn on the volume. Turn on the volume. If he's too loud. Are you going in order? We did FRQ, we did polls, and this is our last FRQ of the day. So T of 6, T of 19. We're more confident in T of 6 because we're in our domain. Because our domain was from 3 to 7. Those are the values we knew about. So 6 is in between. So it's a good value because we have more confidence. 19 is extrapolating way past. So we're extrapolating, which is not good. So T of 6 is our better answer. So we have more confidence in T of 6. And you could just yap about that. You're going to use that. You don't have to use extrapolate. There's multiple words. Try multiple words. For when using average rate of change. For C, there is no average rate of change. This is just asking about, are you more confident or less confident? Yeah. Okay. Any final questions? Any pending questions? Last questions of the day? Stuff like that. Because I'm going to be ending this lecture real quick. Any final questions? Yeah, everyone's locked in. Any last minute tips? First of all, you've all been studying hopefully for at least 3 days if you started Friday after all your AP exams. If you haven't, you're still fine. You've been taking this course the entire year. You've learned your MCQs. You've learned your FRQs. Okay? You have so much time on this exam. You have 80 minutes for 28 questions. You do not get a break between FRQ 1 and 2, 3, and 4. You get a minute break to put your calculator away. That's it. You have if you don't remember a formula, it's fine. Try deriving it. If you have a general idea, so if you have like sine of x plus y, right? If you don't know what it was, just test which one you want to test. So if you think it's the cosine one, try cosine one. If it doesn't work, test it for a value. So like we know sine of 30 plus 60 is going to be a value that we know. We know what sine of 90 is. So just test it and make sure it works. And remember to fill out the lecture feedback form before you go. So any final questions? Should I take an AP practice? Just go to bed and get enough sleep. It's not worth it to take a full practice test because it takes 3 hours, so it's not worth it. Just go to sleep, get a good night's rest, and just relax. Yeah. You've been practicing, you've been asking questions, you've been here for a long time, you've learned a lot. You should all be fine. We'll all talk about the FRQs in 2 days when they release in the AP Precalc channel. And maybe, just maybe, I